Welcome to another episode of OG55. I got Mr. Choo Choo Theme Park Conductor with me today on this episode of This Week on Disney YouTube. But we have two creators. We're going to mix it up a little bit. We've done a lot of Bricky. We've done a lot of Dave from Fresh Baked. This week, we got the Park God and we got Christian Harloff. We're talking Kathleen Kennedy. We're talking FanFest at Universal. We got two great videos up next. Conductor on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of This Week on Disney YouTube. I got my good friend, Mr. Theme Park Conductor, with me today. We are breaking these two videos down. We got Star Wars, we got Universal. It's kind of funny. It's This Week in Disney, but one of the videos is actually Universal, but whatever. Whatever. But Conductor, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. Each week, I get better and better. As many people probably don't know, I've been fighting the flu. The flu's been going around all over the place. And like I said, I'm getting better, but it's still lingering. But it's always great to be on Orange Go 55 for This Week in Disney news and info. But like OG says, we're swapping it up with two new content creators. I can't wait for their opinion on these two amazing subjects. But you can find me on YouTube and Blue Sky at Theme Park Conductor, on Instagram at theme_park_conductor, on X at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. for Conductor Sunday live stream, where we have amazing guests like the one and only Orange Go 55 and so many others as we break down Disney and Universal news. We speculate, we talk rumors. The chat interacts with us, we interact with the chat. It's such a great time. And look forward to on the 26th, I will have Orange Grove 55 and Sam Chat on the show at 7 p.m. So definitely stay tuned for that.
Yep. Welcome on the show, Conductor. Always good to have you on, brother. And you sound much better. You'll get there, man. You're right. The flu or whatever this thing is whatever's going around right now, is kicking people's butts. So just hang in there, brother, and you'll be just fine. Now, before we get started, I don't know when you were so Conductor, when you were younger, did you ever listen to like rap music and stuff, or were you mostly a rock guy, or did you dabble in all of it, or how?
I kind of dabbled in everything. Like I took a little piece of every genre of music.
Okay. Well, the reason why I say that is that when I was younger, and I am older than you, so I don't know if you would remember this guy, but his name is Corrupt. West Coast rapper. Yeah, I love Corrupt. Dog Pound. Huge fan, still am actually. But real quick before we dive into our reactions, I wanted to bring him up because he's actually, unfortunately, going through a lot of health issues right now. And this is a creator, a music artist that I grew up with, and a huge fan of his my whole life. So I want to say I wish Corrupt all the best. I hope he bounces back fully. His music. You ever heard of a slaughter? I mean, this guy only dropped hits, Conductor. He only dropped hits. I used to love this man. I still do. But we wish Corrupt all the well wishes and speedy recovery. Again, he's been in the hospital for they haven't really said what it is, but apparently it's pretty serious. So again, thoughts and prayers go to Mr. Corrupt. And we got Daz Dilly over here with the love these guys. I love these guys. All right, so let's dive into our topics at hand. Now, did you listen to them when you were younger, or not really?
So actually, I did listen to them. Like I said, I kind of dabbled in every different music genre, whether it was hip hop, rap, rock, classical music, blues, you name it, country. I listen to all of it, even
That's
heavy
awesome.
metal. So
That's awesome. I was a funny teenager because I would roll in my car and I'd have that kind of stuff. I'd have like Corrupt and like, Jadakiss and Biggie and Tupac, but then like I would pop in like a Disney CD and listen to like Little Mermaid. I know it's like, woo, it's crazy, but yeah, really kind of a weird juxtaposition there. But okay, so this particular creator, this guy's cool, man. I follow him on Instagram. I'm subscribed to him on YouTube. I suggest everybody at home do the same. He drops a lot of great content. His name is the Park God. First time that we are reacting to the Park God here on OG55. But he did a whole video, Universal Studios Hollywood Fan Fest 2026 breakdown. Conductor, you ready to rock and roll?
let's do it.
Here we go, the Park God.
Well, FanFest 2026 is finally on its way, and I was kind of getting a little bit nervous because we haven't gotten any updates on what the heck is actually going on, besides the fact that in 2025, they sent us a thing saying Scooby-Doo X Universal Monsters, and I had a whole bunch of thoughts when they went and said that, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But as always, guys, hello, everyone. I am the Park God, and we got some news to talk. Let's do it. So Universal FanFest, if you guys forgot what it was, is basically Universal's attempt to essentially make something happen during the spring season. If you guys don't know, Universal Orlando is a lot different than Universal Studios Hollywood, right? Throughout the year when it comes to Universal Orlando, you guys have so many options to do things and to go places over there, meaning you can go to Islands of Adventure, you guys can go to normal Universal Studios, and now, because of the new park that they opened up last year, you guys can even go to Universal Studios Epic Universe, right? So you guys have 3 different parks that you guys get to choose from with an expansive amount of lands, shows, different theme parks, ride vibes, all the stuff that you guys can even hope for when it comes to being over there in Orlando, Florida. So when it comes to Orlando, Florida, they're pretty good all year round. That's not including how doubled up they get when it is Christmas time and when it is Halloween time, right? Then they get even more people who are flying and going to those places. Well, in Universal Studios Hollywood, we do not have that luxury. We have finite space when it comes to this place over here, including our city walk. So when it's Halloween Horror Nights steals the show when it comes to every single theme park in the Californian state. Okay, everyone flies here, everyone travels, and everyone goes to our Halloween Horror Nights. It makes a ton of money. When it comes to this year's Grinchmas,
And honestly, I mean, he's right. And honestly, like this year has been the year of Universal for me, right? Like I got my Platinum Pass almost exactly a year ago. Actually, it was March of 2025. And I've been going like pretty consistently, like every week or maybe every other week to this park. And this is the most I've ever been to Universal Hollywood like this past year. Like I never used to frequent this park like that. I would usually go like once every 3 or 4 years. But with my repeat visits this past year with my AP and everything, I've noticed that Universal actually has a pretty significant amount of international guests, tourists that come to this place. Honestly, it seems like even more than Disney, which is very surprising to me. Right now, a mutual friend of ours, Vash Sky, right? He made this argument like, gosh, man, I don't know, years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago. And I told him, oh, you're crazy, man. Like Disneyland's like the king of of the international guests. People are coming here for Disneyland. I think he might be right on this because anecdotally, it seems like Disneyland is much more like Magic Keys and Locals, and it feels like Universal Studios has more international guests, people from around the world, which is very surprising. But anyway, it's a huge draw for international guests. But what's your experience been, Conductor, with that? Because I mean, have you noticed that too, or am I just tripping?
No, I have noticed that. Like I mean, like not just during the holiday season, but all year round. And actually, to tell you the God honest truth, that's actually a great thing. Many people might say, well, why do you say that? Because if you think about it, Universal Hollywood, just like the park guys said, is that our park is super small. And the fact that we can attract, we can attract, out of town visitors that are not just locals, but from other states, from out of the country, especially international, that is telling me right there that Universal Hollywood has a very, very, very bright future. Because
Oh,
if we look at what's going on as of today, you got updates happening to the studio tour area. You have 3 new security hubs. You have new updates happening in City Walk like crazy. You have, sad to say, you have 6 Point, Texas, which is on the studio tour, being torn down, parts of it. Then you got a new hotel starting construction. You have lower lot construction going to be happening very soon for more theme park expansion, new additions to the studio tour. Universal and Comcast, especially Brian Roberts, would not be making moves like that
right.
if he didn't see this type of guest coming to the park.
Right.
Because when you look at Disney, like you just said, you make an excellent point. The Disneyland Resort, if you look at it as of today, compared to years and years and years ago before COVID, it seems like more locals, more Magic Keys are showing up. And that's why you're starting to see the Disneyland Resort, unfortunately, raise prices on everything. And then there's certain aspects that are catered more towards people from out of state, like special ticket deals, vacation packages, discounts on some prices depending on what package you get for your vacation. So that's an issue. And I know the Disneyland Resort wants to be like Walt Disney World. It's just never going to happen. Even with the third gate, they can come close,
Right.
but they're not going to be close enough.
Well, and
But
that's the thing. Florida is, I think Walt Disney World isn't a resort because of the theme parks, even. I mean, and you'll
no,
see it. You're going to be going there in March, right?
yes,
When you go in March, you'll see. I mean, yes, it has 4 theme parks, but Walt Disney World, I think, is that tourist destination because it feels like a real vacation when you're there. When you stay at like a hotel like the Poly, like it's the beach and the water and the sand. It's like you're on vacation. At Disneyland Resort, you have 2 parks and that's cool. You have hotels and that's cool, but it still feels like, hey, I'm at these theme parks and whatever. At Walt Disney World, it's so much more beyond the parks. And you're right, conductor, to your point. Disneyland will never be what Walt Disney World is. Now, it's interesting. You also bring up a great point about, the CEO of Comcast, Brian Roberts, having a lot of faith in Universal being a draw for tourism. I mean, they're really all in. I mean, chips are in. All chips are in for Universal Hollywood because they are right now building that hotel, that Universal on property hotel over there across from the Globe, the Universal Globe. So Universal clearly has like ambitions to attract more of those of the tourists, from out of state, out of country. Now, real quick before we get back to the park, God, I will say one critique though. We got news yesterday that Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift is coming to Orlando, right? Now, that
yes,
in and of itself is cool. I'm not against it going to Florida. My thing though is I think the timing kind of is not great. Here we have a new attraction coming to Hollywood in like just a few months. Like, I mean, probably like a couple months it'll start, it'll be open, right? And you kind of take the wind out of the sails a little bit when you announce that same thing coming to Universal Orlando, because you have a lot of tourists who are now going to think, oh, if let's say you're from Jersey,
I'm
oh,
sure.
well, that Fast and Furious ride's coming to Florida. I'll just wait for the Florida one because I'm closer to that one.
Yeah,
They let the Hollywood one have its moment in the sun a little bit before the Florida one. I think Universal dropped the ball on that, but it's cool they're getting the coaster though. You know what I'm saying?
yes, and not to divert from the park god and what he's talking about, but I have some very, very, very strong opinions about that. Because personally, for me, this is where I kind of feel Universal kind of failed us. And I know a good friend of both of ours, Jared from Capture the Magic, would disagree. But my thing is, I'm happy they're getting a coaster. Do I think it shouldn't have been Fast and Furious? Absolutely not. I think it should have been a different IP, which Universal has a broad library of IP they could have used. On top of that, I would have been okay with the fact that it was a Fast and Furious coaster, but they named it the exact same thing as what Hollywood's getting. And that right there, I have to put my foot in the ground and say that's a Disney move right there. And that is very, very, very unfortunate because if you think about it, they couldn't have called it Orlando Drift. They couldn't have called it something to do with New York Street since this coaster is going to be on New York Street.
Right.
Or, quite frankly, we kind of thought all this time, we wouldn't have thought it might have been a Ghostbusters themed roller coaster because it made sense. You had you have the firehouse building on New York Street, which Rip Ride Rocket went through. Then
Right.
you had the coaster being on New York Street, which ties into Ghostbusters. So, in my opinion, Universal failed us by duplicating a attraction, a coaster to save money. And that's something I do not like.
I agree with you. I think that okay, I don't mind so much the IP, but I agree with you. I would have preferred something else. I would have preferred Ghostbusters for sure. Yeah, but I think the more egregious thing is definitely the name because you have this New York area. We talked about it last night on the live show we did with Jared from Capture the Magic and Theme Park Philosophy and Tones Poppy. But we talked about this. But like, if you're gonna put this coaster in that section of the park based on New York, call it Fast and Furious Streets of New York or something like New York based. I don't know. Like for me, you're right, conductor. They should have had it more themed to the New York thing. Maybe there's a bigger plan for that area. Maybe they're gonna make it LA eventually. Maybe they're gonna make it more of a generalized like metropolis themed area, like an amalgamation of various big cities. I don't really know. But as it stands, 100% agree with you. That's a huge thing. And a lot of people on Twitter were complaining about the same thing. It's not just us.
I've never even been interested to go to Universal Studios for Christmas. And yet because of the cast members, especially Nick, who was playing the Grinch this season, it has turned it into an entire phenomenon that I've seen lines even longer than Halloween Horror Nights, which I didn't even think was even freaking possible, to be honest with you. But Universal Studios Hollywood dies. Okay, it dies from January all the way until summer because there's nothing for them. At this point, they are trying to just make it to the summertime when people are going to be visiting out here and going to the theme parks, and then making it all the way to Halloween Horror Nights, and then making it all the way to Grinchmas. That is their time from summer to fall to Christmas, and then it starts all over, and they're like, we need something for the springtime to make money, and that's where Universal FanFest came into play, right? Because they end up having something from the middle of April all the way toward the beginning of May. And if it expands itself, then they might decide to go ahead and further it to be like, all right, we'll do this for, let's say, maybe the beginning of April or the end of March all the way till, the beginning of May, because once June starts, then they're going to be good to go because it's summertime, right? And so they created this thing. Last year we had Star Trek. We ended up having Dungeons and Dragons. One Piece came here. We had a bunch of different cast members show up in different character outfits that we got to talk to and meet. And then we also got to go on the back lot, which we haven't been able to do for a very long time, for Back to the Future, which had an entire play segment. It wasn't one of my personal favorites, but I did enjoy the experiences they did give when it came to Star Trek and Dungeons and Dragons, because it was kind of like going through a Halloween Horror Nights maze, but it was more so of a paired storyline where you followed a set of characters throughout an entire storyline. And it was
Yeah, that was really cool about, he's right with the storyline, especially like Dungeons and Dragons. Well, actually both of them. Yeah, Star Trek and Dungeons and Dragons both had that really cool cohesive storyline. And I really love how Universal, and I've said this before, but it bears repeating. I love how Universal took the HHN sort of model when it came to these mazes, and they turned that model, that format, the maze format, into a nerdy experience. And they're showing us that, hey, you know what? These kind of mazes don't have to always be just for Halloween. We can do mazes just for nerdy events like this, and we can change it up and reinvent this kind of format over and over and over again. And I think that was really, really brilliant on Universal's part to do that. And I absolutely love it. Now, I do have some disappointments with some of these announcements, but we'll get into that in a second.
It was actually pretty cool and very in-depth when they did that. Kind of gave the Halloween Horror Nights feel, but on a lighter note. And I enjoyed doing that. But obviously, introducing something brand new to fans means they're not probably going to spend that extra amount of money. They don't know what they're getting themselves into. So you best believe FanFest was empty. It was super empty. It was dead, and I was able to do everything. It essentially was a good way for me to just go to Universal Studios and ride whatever I wanted because I was able to do that. And so this year they have decided to up it up. And man, guys, when I tell you this year, I like the lineup we got for this year. So we're gonna first start off with Scooby-Doo meets Universal Monsters. I personally, when I first heard about this, thought it was going to be maybe like the experiences, right? There was going to be a Scooby-Doo experience, and maybe they were going to give us a different version of a Horror Nights thing, right? Because obviously you bring horror to FanFest or Universal, the fans are going to show up. I went to Vegas just to go to Horror Unleashed, bro. I am down for it, and a lot of people usually are. That is not what we're getting. But I'm actually not mad at what is actually being put in place instead of that. So Back to the Future is done. It says this all new immersive walkthrough adventure is designed to give guests a sensation of stepping into a live action mystery with Scooby-Doo gang and the Universal monsters. So they are going to be investigating some sort of mystery when it comes to the Universal monsters, which I think is going to be super cool to do. Guests will travel to destinations via the studio tour tram, so we can go to the back lot, and we will be seeing Scooby-Doo himself and his pals. So obviously you're going to see Fred, Daphne, Velma, and Shaggy, and you're going to be watching them go through an exciting escapade, which challenges them to solve a mystery involving the most legendary Universal monsters in cinematic history.
Yeah, and he's right. Park God's right. This cinematic history, the most legendary lineup of monsters, right? And this is the perfect kind of marriage of two separate IPs from two totally different studios. You have Universal and you have a WB for Scooby-Doo, but like it fits so perfectly. Like Scooby and the gang with these monsters, this is like on brand for Scooby-Doo, 100%, right? And I love that they're doing this. And what are your thoughts overall, Conductor? About, I don't think we've done a video together on this topic, but like, do you like this mashup?
Oh, I love this matchup. I remember, oh my gosh, this brings me back to my childhood on weekends. Oh my gosh, Saturday morning, Cartoon Network, or staying late, staying up at night, on Saturday night. They called it Toonami, which is kind of like Cartoon Network's after hours.
Right.
Watching the Scooby-Doo and the gang, I loved it. I thought it was brilliant illustration of a cartoon series, and I cannot wait for Universal to put their twist on this, working with WB and working with the Universal monsters, which everybody loves. This is going to be, out of the entire lineup we have this year, this is going to be my number one go-to.
Yeah,
for sure, hands down.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. It's a brilliant mashup. Absolutely brilliant.
Including Frankenstein, Dracula, the Bride of Frankenstein, and freaking Wolfman. If you guys haven't seen Frankenstein and his wife walking through the park, they're pretty chill. I like seeing them around. And as they navigate portions of Universal's world famous outdoor film sets, wow, So it seems like we're going to be able to actually walk around maybe even more than we did for from Back to the Future. From the cobblestone streets of Little Europe to the iconic Court of Miracles, the original filming locations for historical Universal films like Frankenstein and the Wolfman. So this is seeming like it is going to be even bigger than what it was for Back to the Future.
And this is in the what's it called? Little Europe, I think it's called over there.
Yeah, Little Europe.
Little Europe. Okay, and this is the thing. This is why Universal Studios Hollywood is such a great little park, because and it is little. It is a small park, right? But you're not going to be able to do this kind of thing anywhere else. There are no other theme parks in the world that I'm aware of that are working studios like this. Not like the Universal lot. Everything has been filmed at Universal. And to have that experience like we did last year, going to Hill Valley, like where they actually filmed Back to the Future, experiencing that, amazing. This year, going to the area, the sets where they actually film these monster movies and having that cool experience and weaving in that theme park event. I mean, dude, like seriously, you can't get this anywhere else. And yes, Florida Universal has 3 parks. It's bigger. But this kind of experience is really one in a billion, and you can't duplicate this. Even if you tried, even if you wanted to duplicate this in Florida, you couldn't, because you know what? They didn't have the monster movies filmed over there. So it's really, really cool. I love this.
That's extremely exciting to me. I'm so hyped to see what they're going to do and play when it comes into that. Anything that has to do with Universal Monsters, I'm all game for, but I'm excited to see if they're going to still do another story plot wise that you could just follow along yourself like they did for Back to the Future. So that's going to be that. Now, obviously, One Piece is going to come back because One Piece is one of the greatest animes to ever exist. As you can see, my boy Straw Hat Luffy right freaking here. And once again, they are going to be doing the Grand Pirate Show where Waterworld is. I didn't get to see it last year because I was so busy trying to film everything that every time I kept coming back, I was late and it was over already and I was ready to go home. I'm making sure I'm going to get it this year. Now, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
Before we move on to Harry, the One Piece, okay, last year for One Piece at FanFest, they had like, it was mostly just photo ops. And then like they had like the Mexican restaurant, the Cochina, you pronounce it?
Yes.
Okay.
Cochina,
They turned that into a One Piece eatery, and they had like Filipino food, I believe. Yeah, so that was cool. But this time they're ramping it up. Now they're going to take One Piece and they're going to put this franchise in the Waterworld area, which they didn't have last year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's going to be another big hit, because I'm telling you right now, and I know a lot of people don't like it now because it's been repetitive over the years, but when Waterworld first acquired The Purge for the first year of HHN, the first year, not any other year, but the first year, I could tell you right off the bat that was a banger. That the pyrotechnics they used, just the stunt coordination they used, absolutely incredible. So I cannot wait to see what One Piece is going to do.
Oh yeah, One Piece is huge. I mean, look, I've never really dipped into anime too much. I really respect and appreciate the art form. I think the Japanese are way ahead of us when it comes to how they approach animation. Like I've said it before, like the Japanese see animation the right way. They see it as a medium, as a way to tell a story. So it can be for kids and it can be for families and it can be for adults, right? The Japanese understand that. Out here in the Western world, we kind of are getting there, but we still kind of see animation as like family fare stuff. But I love the way the Japanese approach animation, right? But I'm telling you, like, not a huge anime guy, admittedly, but going to FanFest last year, I mean, the level of enthusiasm for this franchise, I thought it was going to be Back to the Future. Back to the Future is like the legacy IP, and it was popular. A lot of people were digging Back to the Future, but I'm telling you, every other person had the straw hat on. The girls all had that. I think her name is Nami, the orange hair and the blue top.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you noticed, conductor. I think we all did, right? Right. A lot of baddies walking around the park looking like, I think her name is Nami. But anyway, long story short, I mean, it blew. I mean, it was huge, absolutely huge. So I love that Universal's kind of like doubling down on this franchise and going all in on the One Piece. It's a really smart move, and it's not even just One Piece though. We had Jujutsu Kaisen in the DreamWorks theater, which was like all in Japanese. They actually had subtitles. That was amazing. And it looks like Universal is really embracing anime. So I think it's a really smart move. I wish Disney would do that, but I don't know.
Potter is having something huge. As you know, we had 2 walkthrough experiences at FanFest. We had Star Trek and we had Dungeons and Dragons. Obviously, Dungeons and Dragons was a lot better than the Star Trek one. Well, this year, guys, we are getting an experience for the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And that is probably going to have one of the fattest lines you can possibly imagine. So this unique walkthrough experience will take guests into the depths of the Forbidden Forest. I love walking through sets that are like forests in search of a lost hippogriff with guidance from a Hogwarts professor. They will encounter magical creatures and familiar beasts as they face a series of obstacles, which will require the guests to summon their bravery and spellcasting skills to help a hippogriff in need.
And I tell you, the Harry Potter stuff that Universal has done, it's like a conductor and OG video. They drop nothing but hits. You know what I'm saying? Nothing but hits. I mean, the projection shows are absolutely gorgeous, right? I mean, last year at FanFest, we had the projection shows. We had like the cool creatures from Fantastic Beasts in the land. This experience is going to be a banger. I have no doubt. Not a doubt in my mind.
God, I would love it if they gave us a 1. I know they're not going to give us a 1, but they're definitely going to do kind of how they did for Dungeons and Dragons, where they had us chant with them or say words. So they're probably going to have cauldron and spells for us and have another big giant puppetry animatronic thing or whatever when it comes to that. I don't care what it is. It's Harry Potter, and that's all I care about. That's it. Honestly, it's to the point your boy might audition for that. If your boy sees that I can play a Hogwarts character in FanFest, I might do it, because that sounds super fun. So I'm excited they're pivoting to this. In my opinion, Star Trek, I wasn't that big of a fan of that. And the experience that they did have was cool, but it had nothing on that Dungeons and Dragons experience. And so now that we have 2 of those experiences, that's going to be a great thing to go ahead and do at FanFest Nights, especially if you are a fan of the Harry Potter franchise. All right, next we do have Super Nintendo World Colorful Yoshi Celebrations. So this year at FanFest, they are going to introduce vibrant and multicolored Yoshis. It's going to be celebrating throughout Super Nintendo World and an all-new adventure, and it will welcome guests to explore the land where they will have a chance to meet new colorful Yoshis who can be found throughout the Mushroom Kingdom. Me personally, I don't care about this. I'll just keep it at a buck with you guys. If they had a Mario experience, I would be all game for this. But me standing in a 300-minute line to take a picture with yellow Yoshi is just not happening. It's just not happening. But I am excited for people who are super happy.
Yeah, I agree with him on that. It's not my thing. I'm not a meet and greet kind of guy though. But go ahead.
No. By all means. I do agree. One thing I have heard, because we had the blue and pink Yoshi and green Yoshi. So we're still gonna have the green Yoshi. We're gonna have the pink one, and we're gonna have the blue one, but we're gonna have different colors. Yeah. Like probably a black one, purple one, orange one. But I do agree the way they did it last year. Kind of, again, it was the first year, so it was kind of trial and error.
Yeah.
But hopefully they make it a little more interesting. What I would like to see from Super Nintendo World, to be honest with you, I would not mind the Yoshi meet and greet staying there, like the green Yoshi. But one thing I would love to see, like a Bowser meet and greet, or a Bowser Jr.,
yes,
or a Wario, or a Waluigi. Some of these characters you never ever get to see. That's what I want to see for FanFest.
I agree with you. I would agree with you. I go dip into some of the other Mario universe characters. But even further than that, this is Super Nintendo World.
Yes.
So why is Universal only focusing on Super Mario? Like, it would be dope to have a Samus, a Metroid meet and greet.
Oh, dude.
Bro, that would be
I'm
sick.
telling you. Firefox.
Or Star Fox. Yeah. That's
Star Fox.
Star Fox. Exactly.
Yeah.
Nintendo has a massive library that you can pull from.
Gosh.
You could have Zelda. You could have Link.
Oh,
You can have all these characters. You could have Kirby. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why. I don't know. For me, I agree with Park God. I mean, it's cool. We're gonna get more colored Yoshis. That's awesome. But at the end of the day, though, it's more of the same. They kind of did that last year. And this is one of my big critiques about this lineup. And from what we heard from our good friend Universal High, he mentioned it on X or on Twitter. There's more announcements to come. So that's good. As of right now, though, what the announcements that we currently have is a little underwhelming. I was hoping for like a new IP in here that would really kind of like, wow, that's crazy. And we didn't really get that. It seems like a lot of the same stuff, kind of. Just no Back to the Future. You know? I don't know. I mean, even Scooby-Doo is, I don't know. I mean, we have him on the upper lot over there by the main entry already. It's kind of like, I mean, it's a cool thing that they're doing, but it's like, I was kind of hoping for an all new IP that like we just were like Ninja Turtles or something sick would be dope.
That, or since they're selling the merch at Universal and it was based off an extinct attraction for the studio tour, why not give us a Battlestar Galactica walkthrough or some shit?
Dude, that's sick. I'm telling you, there was opportunities here, and I feel like they played it a little safe this year. I gotta be honest.
When it comes to Nintendo stuff. And last but not least, of course, guys, we have Dungeons and Dragons making a comeback. Secrets of the Waterdeep. That was one of the best experiences that I went through in FanFest last year, and I have never gone through anything like it. So I am extremely glad that they are bringing that thing back, especially because I do believe Dungeons and Dragons is kind of making a really huge impact. I feel like not only are new Dungeons and Dragons people are going to want to check this out, but all of us who enjoyed this experience before get to have it again. And I'm so happy about that they did not change that one. So for right now, this is going to be all the things that are going to be coming to this year's FanFest nights in 2026. Obviously, the food hasn't been, talked about or shown yet, but I will be talking about that when that does come out. Obviously, just like Halloween Horror Nights, you guys can get some of the same things. It's like Ultimate Fandom Pass. It's going to be kind of like the RIP tour when it came to Halloween Horror Nights. You got your Universal Express, 2 p.m. day and night, all that stuff that you would normally have for that. They also have pass member special pricing. If you guys are going to be a Universal Pass member, sometimes you can type your code in and get a cheaper price. That's super cool for you guys to also be able to have. So this is definitely tickets are definitely going on sale right now, and this will be running for 12 nights only. So it is not a lot of nights. I think because it's not a super established thing for them yet, they just want to make sure they're investing their money and time. And so having a smaller window is going to have a higher turnout of audience versus having a bigger window and having less of an audience. If you have only 12 nights, then that means everybody who wants to experience this has to come in, which means you're going to get a lot more money. And if you hadn't noticed, social media is the reason that Universal has been killing it even more lately. So if you get a great experience, best believe people are probably going to show up to FanFest nights more just because of the great win that they went on with Grinchmas and Halloween Horror Nights 2025. So this is going to be opening from April 23rd all the way to May 16th. So you guys got the weekend of April 23rd to the 25th.
So make sure, big shout out to the Park God. He's on Instagram. He's obviously on YouTube. I'll be linking his YouTube channel and his Instagram down in the description down below. Make sure you support him. He is a great content creator who I recently just found out about. Really passionate theme park guy. And yeah, so big shout out to Park God. Make sure you subscribe to him and show him all the love. All right, so that's Universal FanFest. Now, conductor, we are going to pivot to a galaxy far, far away. This is Christian Harloff, who actually, I've said it many, many times, Christian Harloff is the guy who got me into this whole YouTube thing. I love what he used to do back in the day with like, the Jedi Council show and all that good stuff. Just him and his friends just around a table nerding out about Star Wars. That inspired me to do a YouTube channel where me and my friends chilling, nerding out, talking about theme parks. So he was my main inspiration. His content was the main inspiration for what I do here. So I want to give a big shout out and a thank you to Mr. Christian Harloff. This is about Kathleen Kennedy's exit interview. She left. She's no longer at Lucasfilm. Brennan and Filoni took over. Here we go, conductor. Let's rock and roll.
Let's do it.
I found the exit interview. Luke sent it to me. So it kind of goes over the future of the project. So I want to go over that, and then we'll get to your questions in just a minute. The 25 right now, they need 112 to tie. So could they get another win? We shall see. We shall see. Love that. All right. This is the exit interview with Deadline that Kathleen Kennedy gave. Now, again, she's been preparing for this for a bit. This does show the pro side of her. Like, it's calculated. She knew how she was going to do it. She found her successors, and now she's doing her interviews. Lucasfilm has percolated a lot of future Star Wars films and generated many hours of Disney Plus series in recent years. Talk about this combination of Filoni and Brennan and how you finally loosening your grip on the reins. She said 2 years ago, I went to Bob and Alan to figure out what the transition plan would be, and I made the recommendation that it be Dave Filoni and Lewin Brennan, the latter of who has been running the business alongside me. She comes out of ILM 16 years as a general manager and then transitioned into being the general manager for Lucasfilm. She has been my key financial partner, my business partner running the company. Dave is the perfect person to transition, but he hadn't made a movie, and I worked very closely with him, beginning with Rogue One, to get him a feel of how live action works. His background is animation, as he worked with George on Clone Wars. He's very talented, immersed in Star Wars. He and Pablo Hidalgo are like...
Now, real quick, before we continue, it's interesting. As of this recording, which is Wednesday, January 21st, we received word that Disney will announce their CEO, the new CEO that will succeed Bob Iger, next month. So I'm guessing probably the earnings call, which I think is like February 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. Here's why I'm bringing that up. They are going with a dual leadership role here with Star Wars, with Lucasfilm, right? They're doing like the creative guy, which is Filoni, and the business person, which is Brennan. It's interesting because I'm wondering, I'm curious your thoughts on this, conductor. I'm wondering if Disney is it seems like Disney's open to this kind of like structure of like this dual leadership thing. They're doing it for Lucasfilm, one of the biggest studios in that Disney wheelhouse, right? We've talked about a lot here on the channel. Is it possible? Now, we do believe it's going to be Josh D'Amaro, the parks guy, who's going to get the CEO job. It's looking like that. But it's also possible, along with him, maybe they'll bring Dana Walden in and she'll do the studio side. This move with Lucasfilm sort of points in the direction of a willingness to kind of have that model. We also do know that Bob Iger did talk to the guys over there at Netflix, because Netflix has that dual CEO structure. And there has been interest in this officially. Now we're seeing them kind of enact it on a smaller scale with Lucasfilm. What's your thoughts on this, conductor, before we move on?
So I'm not opposed to having a dual CEO for the Walt Disney Company, because as many people probably know, if not know, the Walt Disney Company was started as a dual CEO. You had Roy handling the finances and the studio,
Right?
or kind of the studio, but then you had Walt, who was the creative that produced Mickey Mouse. You had Disneyland. You had Walt Disney World. You had all these different characters of the Disney Vault, as I call it,
Right.
classic characters, and he was in charge of building the experiences for guests. So when we jump from 1955 all the way to now, and I don't think it's such a bad idea for Josh D'Amaro and either Dana Walden or some other studio person to run the Walt Disney Company. To be fair to Josh D'Amaro, I personally don't feel he can handle all of the Walt Disney Company. And that is not an insult.
No.
It's just saying that we as fans, both of the theme parks, the cruise lines, the entertainment side of it, and also fans of the studio side, don't want to see the company suffer either way. So having a dual CEO position helps ensure that there's a better chance of that not happening. And like you said, we're seeing it with Lucasfilms, we're seeing it with Netflix, even Comcast has a dual CEO.
Right.
So if everyone else is doing it and it's successful, why not jump on board and do
Yeah,
this?
no, I agree with you. I agree with you. And the thing is that Josh D'Amaro is running the experiences division. I've said this many times on many videos, but not everyone watches every video. So I like to repeat myself sometimes. But I think there's a big concern with the person who doesn't have Hollywood experience. And look, 20 years ago, I don't think it would have been as big of a deal, right?
Yeah.
But with the current landscape, we're going into a very turbulent period in Hollywood. Like we got streaming, which completely upended the theatrical stuff, right? It continues to do that. We have a changing landscape, even with Netflix probably going to acquire Warner Brothers, asking to change Hollywood. We have all this AI stuff, right? There's a lot on the studio side happening. And to have a guy go in there without any of that experience, and I know he'll have a year on the job training and Iger, and they're going to train him for a year or whatever. But nothing can really replace that on the job experience like that you would gain from like a Dana Walden, though. So I'm hoping they have a plan for that. Now, look, if they don't do the co-CEO thing, you can do Josh as CEO, but you could promote Dana to like the president of the company. They used to have a president role for Disney. They got rid of that a long time ago, but they can make her president. And then you kind of have at least someone under him who's sort of like managing the studio side. I think they got to figure that studio side out, though. And I know a lot of my park people are going to get upset for me for saying this. Disney is a studio first. It's a studio first. This company, I get it. The parks make a lot of money, but the studio is what drives the whole machine. If you don't have the studio making movies and shows and new characters and new IPs, you have nothing to fill your theme parks with. You have nothing to fill your cruise ships with. You have nothing to fill your video games with. It all hinges on what the studio is doing. It's the heartbeat of the whole operation. So they really want to make sure the studio is running on all cylinders. So that's my biggest concern with them.
Like the walking encyclopedias inside the company. They always have the answers when you ask, hey, can I do this with a lightsaber, or what colors were the sabers, or anything you need to know what has come before. Dave has now spent all the seasons of The Mandalorian working with Jon Favreau, who's been a great mentor to him. And then he went off and did Ahsoka, which came from some of the stories he was telling in Clone Wars. He was able to create the season 1 of Ahsoka, and now he's just finishing directing season 2 and writing all the episodes. That scares the shit out of me. He finished that in October. But my point is, we've been talking about this for 2 years. That's that goes to one of my points, guys, is that there's no world, like, he's so possessive over Ahsoka. There's no world where you should write that whole season by yourself. You have so much access to good writing. What are you doing? Kennedy, that is not happening here. I told everybody I would stick around a bit longer than I had intended to, but I'm so ready to go off and have the chance to make lots of movies. I want to do more movies. I want the opportunity to get back to a kind of eclectic group of movies that I used to. I'm looking forward to working with Frank again on some stuff, which of course is talking about her husband. He has been doing lots of documentaries and having a ball. I'm also really interested in new technology, I have to say, to which I said AI. Yes, I'm interested in exploring using those tools in responsible ways and working out the complications around trying to figure out what we're trying to do in terms of protecting artists' rights. That is vitally important, but at the same time, there's nothing more exciting than having new tools that it can expand on what you're capable of doing in terms of creating visual language around stories. I've had a unique opportunity to be around a lot of that over the years and witness those changes. I genuinely feel like we're entering that moment again where we're going to see things we've never seen before, and I think that's just really exciting. Is there some past breakthrough that compares to potential game-changing streamers? The AI stuff is very interesting too, and I'd like to explore it on a future episode. We don't have much time, so I want to get to the future episodes. Things. Okay. You just wrapped the 6th film in the Star Wars universe. Is Starfighter meant to be an ongoing theatrical series? It was always envisioned as a single film. Sean Levy just made the experience so pleasant for everybody, and we found this 14-year-old kid out of Ireland who had virtually no experience. That's always risky, hanging a story so much on a child actor. You're not exactly how comfortable they're going to be. Flynn Gray turned out to be such a special kid. When you get cast, a lot of it becomes about the parents. He has great parents and got lucky there too. Not only was there Ryan Gosling, the movie is structured in a way that he had kind of a new actor coming in every few weeks he was one-on-one with, Matt Smith, Amy Adams, Aaron Pierre. And each one, it was so great to watch him because he would just get so excited by the actors he got to work with. It was like he was the best. He was in the best university you could possibly be in. Let's see more. I'm going to get more into the projects themselves. Hold on a second. Okay, no. Here's okay. So, what about the question I asked earlier? Sounds like Sean will be a willing returnee, and you've made a discovery with this kid from Ireland. Are we going to watch him grow up in an arc of pictures? We could, but this was designed as a real standalone. We have the Mandalorian movie with Jon Favreau coming out, which also was great, and a completely different Star Wars movie that comes out in May. And as soon as I get back into town, I'm sitting down with John and looking at that. The whole time I've been shooting Starfighter.
Now, I will say this. I like the fact that this is a standalone movie. Obviously, you know, it's going to be connected to the broader Star Wars universe, and I understand that. But I think it's kind of refreshing in this day and age of like the cinematic universes and all this stuff to just have a one and done. You know what I'm saying? It was refreshing to have Rogue One because it was just a one and done. It was Rogue One and that was it, right? I mean, you had Andor, I guess, with the series, but like in terms of movies, it was just the one thing. It was a standalone film. I think that's really, really important, and I think that Marvel should lean more into that as well. Having these kind of like these standalone films because. I don't know. I feel like this whole like everything's connected and these like long drawn out sort of storylines over multiple films. I think people are sort of at a different spot right now with that kind of thing. The theatrical experience isn't what it was before. Do people really want to commit to 4 or 5 movies? You know what I'm saying? Like in the theaters, it's good. I think that Star Wars is committing this Starfighter film just to this one and done kind of film. I like that, in my opinion.
We're working on effects that are going into the movie. We finished shooting in November. We've had a long post on that, and so I'll oversee a lot of those effects shots cut into John's movie, and I'll myself re-immerse and get that finished. With Sean's movie, this could go on, but it's not our intention right now. AKA, let's wait to see if it makes money. We really made the movie as a standalone story, but you cannot ignore the fact that this young actor is so good. I will be very surprised if he doesn't go on and we don't try to see their future stories, AKA if it makes a lot of money. But it was kind of nice not going to this and not having to think that way. We could just make a movie and tell a story. Totally fair and smart. Deadline. What have been the highs and lows of running a company built on such a beloved IP? Which you said the highs include realizing how many people love Star Wars. The majority of people and certain people that I run into and people outside the business, they love Star Wars. They love the movies. They might love all the shows. They might love some of the shows. But when I came into this, I realized a few things. We had walked in at a moment that there hadn't been any movies for 10 years or so, but there was still the memory of the greatest series of movies in cinema history. So you're walking into something that has enormous expectations, yet at the same time, you know, you've got to find new characters and you have to expand the galaxy, and you need to think about who the new audience is. That's what I feel that I did. And that's what I feel all the people that I've worked with over the last decade did. The highest bring in a new audience. I think we did find new characters. We continue to find new characters. Below.
Now, here's the thing that's interesting about this, right? When she talks about, you know, entering and you know, those early days at Lucasfilm, right? And I think fans sort of, I think hindsight's 2020, right? A lot of fans will say, well, you know, why didn't they just do Lucas's ideas for the sequels, right? In hindsight, that probably would have been a good idea, you know what I'm saying? But we also have to remember the mindset going into this. When Disney bought Star Wars, when Disney bought Lucasfilm in 2012, Lucas and the prequels were not like super loved. Like there was a hunger from the fandom to move away from the Lucas era, the prequel stuff. And, you know, a lot of fans wanted practical effects back. They didn't want a lot of CGI. They didn't want, you know, I think there was a hunger. It was a different vibe back then. So that's why I think a lot of fans now, they say, well, they should have just done this and they should have just done that, which I don't necessarily disagree with in hindsight. But to be fair to Kennedy, who I'm not a huge fan of, to be honest with you, but to be fair to her, I mean, I think that they kind of handled it the best they could when they were getting into this because of the temperature in the room at the time, basically.
Lows. The lows are that you have to have you've got a very, very small percentage of the fan base that has enormous expectations and basically want to continue to see pretty much the same thing. And if you're not going to do that, then you know you're going to disappoint them. I'm not sure there's anything you can do about that because you can't please everybody. All you can do is try to tell good stories and try to stick to the essence of what George created. He embedded incredible values into Star Wars and what it has to say. The whole idea of hope and fun and entertainment is what he's done over all these years, and that's what I tried to preserve. And I wouldn't do that any differently, and I wouldn't change that what we've done over the years. I understand why some people like certain things more than others, but that's not going to change what I did, why I decided to do certain things, and why I decided to work with the people that I worked with. I think everybody that came into Star Wars space, they love Star Wars and was first and foremost important. You want to have people coming into Star Wars and wanting to tell stories, yada, yada, yada. Back when I want to see, I want to get more into these future films.
So I have to point something out, OG.
Sure.
So the I don't know, you know, on your point of giving Kennedy a break from, you know, when George Lucas did the prequels, and like you said, a decent amount of people wanted to get away with that or get away from that
Right.
do practical effects. But I would feel sympathetic towards Kennedy if that's the only thing that happened. When I think it was The Last Jedi came out and people were hating on it, her as a CEO or even a guy running Lucasfilms, doesn't matter what company you work for as a CEO,
Right.
you do not go on social media and start bashing people and degrading them online.
Oh, I
That
agree with you on that. I
right
agree with you on that. Yeah, Lucasfilm should not have gotten in the mud with fans. And look, a
no,
lot of fans, there are a ton of toxic and even racist, ugly fans out there, right, that you know that partake in some really crappy behavior.
yeah,
It's not Lucasfilm's job though to
no,
get
it's
to get in the mud with those fans and argue it out on Twitter. That yeah, I completely agree. That was a fumble. Like you couldn't believe. Oh, believe me, there was a lot of fumbles in the
oh
Kathleen Kennedy era. I mean, really, creatively, it wasn't even so bad. For me, it was more of that kind of thing, and also like the behind the scenes. You know, like Lord and Miller were doing the Solo movie, and they were like 70% done, and then they leave, and then Colin Trevorrow was going to do episode 9, then he leaves, and Patty Jenkins was going to do her thing, and then she leaves, and you know, Kennedy was sort of like, you know, latching on to like what was trendy at the time.
yeah,
And then like Colin Trevorrow, for example, they grabbed him with the Jurassic World because that was huge. And then when Book of Henry came out, they dropped him like a hot potato. Like it was like, okay, we don't need him now. Patty Jenkins, same thing. Wonder Woman comes out, they grab Patty for her movie, her X-Wing movie or whatever. And then Wonder Woman 2 comes out, and it's like, forget that. That was pretty bad. It was a lot of trend jumping. I mean, look, her tenure at Lucasfilm was riddled with a lot of mistakes, horrible mistakes. And really the creative side of it wasn't even the worst of it. Most of it was just the management of it all, was just
it
crap.
was.
Yeah.
It was. And one thing I will say that came out of Kennedy's 10-year leadership, and I know a lot of fans probably will disagree with me on this, it was very cool for the Disney Plus series to have the Obi-Wan series. And I'm still holding hope they will do a season 2. I think that kinetic energy between, you know, Obi-Wan and Darth Vader after episode 3, I think telling the story about what happened to Obi-Wan and then what happened to Darth Vader
Right.
was awesome. And if they go on to make a season 2, season 3, I would not be opposed to that, because a lot of fans, from what I understand, just watching video after video after video, is that you know, when you look at Luke in these later movies, 7, 8, 9, and you're like, okay, well, how do you go from being this complete badass master Jedi to now a hermit on an island, and then he dies because the force kind of kills him off? It's like, wait a second, what happened to the middle? Tell
Right.
us what happened in the middle. Don't just go from badass super, master, master Jedi to now a homeless hermit on an island and have no in between. That's kind of why I respected the Obi-Wan series, even though it was only one season, is because they were starting to get into what happened after episode 3 between Dark Vader and Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and the thing too that I actually will say that I really do appreciate of the Kathleen era, the last few years. Speaking of Obi-Wan, the last few years they brought in a lot of like they brought in Ewan McGregor, obviously, to play, for Kenobi, and then they brought in Hayden Christensen too for stuff. And
Yes.
I love that. I'm a huge Hayden fan. I think, look, Hayden used to get so much crap over the years. I think he was a great Anakin Skywalker. I thought he was an amazing. Look, was some of his dialogue clunky? Was some of his dialogue corny? Yes, but that wasn't Hayden. That was George Lucas's writing. Like
Yeah.
even Natalie Portman sounded clunky and awkward, and she's an amazing actress. Like it wasn't their fault, But yeah, no, I agree with you, man.
Hold on a second. Sorry.
There we go.
It's always great when movies make us feel one way. This is from Deadline. I felt it on Oppenheimer, most recently on One Battle After Another, and especially in Sinners. The audacity of Ryan Coogler to veer from that sultry blues number in that club to the imagery of people past and present from Africa to Compton, where you could see the connective tissue and historical influences past and present to form of music. Coogler went into that genre sandbox and turned it completely on its ear and made it relevant to everyone as they thought about their own tribal roots and origin stories. I don't think I'd ever see that in a movie quite. I never thought I'd see a movie like that. I imagine you'd give your IT to have a guy like that see what he could do in Star Wars. Oh, trust me, Mike, this is a part of what I try to do. Sit with the people that I would love to step into this thing, but Star Wars isn't really Ryan's thing. The trickiest thing is to find a filmmaker and say, you can step into this space and you still be you. Okay. Let's get to what the fans are eager to know. Progress on films and series by filmmakers who are committed to putting in 3 to 5 years. Rian Johnson, James Mangold, Simon Kinberg, Taika. Where are their projects? I have to tread a bit carefully here. Mangold and Bo Willimon wrote an incredible script, but it's definitely breaking the mold and it's on hold. That's shocking news. Taika has turned in a script that I think is hilarious and great. It's not just my decision, especially when I've got a foot out the door. Donald Glover has turned in a script, and as you
The Taika Waititi thing, the script, being hilarious, that makes me nervous. And Christian actually talks a lot about this, about humor, like with Marvel and Star Wars and stuff. And I'm completely on the same page as he is with this, where some of this humor does not land, man. It's a lot of cornball, cheesy crap. And I don't know about it, like a really hilarious Star Wars movie. I don't know. That one makes me really, really nervous.
have read, Steven Soderbergh and Adam Driver turned in a script written by Scott Burns. It was just great. Anything's a possibility if somebody's willing to take a risk. I remember when I came into this job, the first thing Iger said to me was be bold. I've always liked that because I think you have to be bold. You have to be willing to take risks with people and ideas. Otherwise, you're just doing the same thing. Right now, we're in an era where companies are so risk averse, and I get it. I hear all the conversations. They've got Wall Street to please, and I get it. But I also believe that's what contributes to things disappearing. I just think you have to take chances. Everything I just reeled off to you is just taking a chance because none of those filmmakers are just walking in trying to do same old, same old. I'm excited by that, but the studio's nervous about that, and that's where it sits. And then you asked for Rian Johnson. Clearly, the Rian Johnson thing isn't going to happen. We said it a long time ago. Okay, so that's good enough to kind of dive into this at the moment. So I think that the thing that, Winston, that makes me at the very end of it, that I hope what made Marvel work, and speaking that we've talked about Capes, with this being a Capes and Cal show adjacent today, one of the things that made Marvel MCU work so well from phases 1 to 3, there was a clear-cut plan. They had an idea of where they wanted to go from each movie. They would kind of design certain things that ultimately would go there. They'd bring in someone like a Ryan Coogler, and they'd say, look, we want your stamp on this. We want you to make this your thing, but we need it to be able to go here. And some directors didn't like that. Some directors took off and said, well, I want to make my own thing. And we have an agenda. We've got to go somewhere, put your stamp on it, but take us here in a way that they did with like Peyton Reed and Ant-Man, right? Star Wars has not done that yet. the new regime in Star Wars. And Kathleen Kennedy just said it. It's like all these filmmakers come in, they have great ideas. But what's your idea? What's your idea of the overall arc that these filmmakers can contribute to? And do you think that will change?
I mean, I would take what you said and say that it was actually worse than that. It wasn't just that she didn't have ideas. She would say, yo, that sounds hella good. I'm a little too afraid, though, to let you actually do it. Like she even said, she's like, so-and-so turned in the script. It was awesome. And so, like, there is even an idea to trust other people's ideas. And it felt like at a certain point, she stopped doing even that. So I think that, yes, that is something that will have to change. Again, based off of what you're talking about with Filoni, I hope we don't end up in a situation where, he has an idea, but it's so rigid, you don't bring anything in.
Right.
But there is something to be said about somebody that knows that maybe they don't have the full they know a few things, but they don't have the full wherewithal, but they hire the right people to do it. If you're going to keep hiring these people and making announcements that you're hiring these people, but then you don't actually let them do the thing that they were going to do, I think that was probably the biggest curse out of the Last Jedi split that ended up happening, and how people felt about Ryan.
Yeah.
So this is how I feel right now, and he makes I love his answer to this question, because that's how I kind of feel the Walt Disney Company is doing. And this kind of ties in the Lucasfilm, because as Christian was reading the Deadline article and the questions and answer between Deadline and Kathleen Kennedy, was that I kind of felt that Bob Iger was meddling in Lucasfilm as well, and not letting Kathleen Kennedy take the full reins without oversight.
I agree with you on that.
That's the first problem.
Yeah, and I heard that as well. I heard that he was meddling and inserting stuff. And so, yeah, Kennedy was a mess, but I think a lot of that mess was exacerbated by Bob Iger going in there and trying to do his thing. And, when you're CEO, you have to know when to insert yourself and when to pull back. The CEO job should really be more of a delegator job. Like he shouldn't be in here. Like, I remember, like, when Solo, the Star Wars story, came out.
Yeah.
The worst thing in the movie, in my opinion, when how Han Solo got his name.
Yeah.
Oh, you're flying solo? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm Han Solo. That whole cheesy joke.
Yeah.
I remember. Oh, it was horrible. It was like the worst thing in the movie, because then it totally taints the guy's name now forever, because now you associate his name with that cheesy joke. But that was supposedly Bob Iger's idea. It's like, I don't need an executive working on like the ideas, and like he should be delegating this stuff and not inserting himself. So I think he was a big part of it. I agree, Conductor.
Yeah, and not to go off the rails, since I'm Conductor, but not to go off the rails here. But
well, hey, sometimes you gotta let out some steam, right?
I do gotta let out some steam. But see, that's why I've said recently, on any video I do, either with you or I'm on other shows, or I even talk about it on my live stream, is the mere fact that when Chapek was the CEO and you had Bob Iger, again, playing the puppet master behind the scenes and doing stuff that was either a trial and error, and when things went wrong, oh, look at, I made the decision, but I'm not in front of the cameras. Chapek is, so let's blame him for all this. And then on top of that, one thing I 100% disagree with is a CEO, whether it's Bob Iger and the Walt Disney Company or any CEO of any company, being the CEO of that company and also being the chairman of the board. You can't have that, because if you're the CEO and you're the chairman of the board,
it's a conflict.
They're massive conflict.
It's because You're right, conductor, because the board is supposed to be a check on the CEO's power, essentially.
Yes.
And when you have Iger sitting he's the chairman of the board and he's CEO, and he got rid of the president position.
Yes.
Disney used to have a president position, and they got rid of that. So 100%. Well said.
Ryan Johnson, it put the type of fear in her that she became almost indecisive. And then even where like the flip-flopping of, well, no, Ryan's gone, but then put JJ on the Rise of Skywalker. We got the.
Well, no, it was before JJ. It was Colin Trevorrow, and then she got rid of him.
It was Ryan, and then Trevorrow, and then you're right, and then JJ. So that whole scenario. Then again, you just listed all the different people that turned stuff in that they never like kind of go forward.
Well, to be fair on her in this interview, though, too, what she said, it seemed, Chris, like she was alluding to not that she wasn't willing to take the risk. It seemed like the studio was saying, no, we're not taking risks. But she wasn't calling out Disney particular, but she was saying, in order to make these movies work, I get it, you got to answer to Wall Street, but you got to take some shots.
That was my interpretation too.
Yes, and that's what we talked about, where it seems like her boss, Bob Iger, was definitely meddling to what you were saying, Connector, and definitely kind of like, nah, we're not going to do that. And honestly, I think that might have hurt her. Because there might have been some projects that maybe she would have been willing to do, and Bob Iger and C-suite is like, nah, we're good, So
exactly.
not good at all.
Of calling out as a whole, this industry is very risk adverse, and we've seen it time and time again. But on that same note, we've seen when tiny little films with small budgets get like some kind of push behind them just because of some kind of belief. You look at some of the stuff that A24 has done. You look at, K-pop Demon Hunters, the big push that they did with that. You can have great success if you take that big swing and really believe in what you've put out there.
Right.
And to me, that's the other part of this is, yes, this industry is risk adverse. Yes, you do need to take chances. We need studios to stand behind those chances too.
Yep.
Because how often have we seen with Disney in particular, we're just going to kind of drop it. We're just going to kind of throw it out there. And we've talked.
Well, yeah, no, Chris is absolutely right about that. And we touched upon it a little bit earlier where it's like, okay, Colin Trevorrow is the hot thing right now because of Jurassic World.
Yes.
But then the Book of Henry drops and it wasn't good. Right. And now, oh, you know what? Colin, I'm sorry. We're going to go with somebody else now. See, it's like this trend chasing and reactive stuff that really plagued Lucasfilm, where it was like they were chasing like the hot thing at the moment, but then not backing them up when that director or, had like a maybe a weak film or what have you. You got to stand by your creatives and stand by your decision. They get up on these stages, they announce these things. Oh yeah, Patty Jenkins. Oh yeah, Colin Trevorrow. Stand by your decision. But they kept being so reactive and spooked about every little thing. Oh, Book of Henry, we can't have him now. I mean, it's really dumb. Really, really dumb.
Got it on here before too, of stand behind your choices. Really, really own up to the stuff that you've made. When somebody feels cringy about their own content, we all feel it. Right? We know it. It's why it's the same kind of thing as when you watch The Office and you feel that secondhand embarrassment. You feel that from the studios when they casually release something. So for twofold, I think that's something that Kennedy addresses here, but not enough of, we do need to take risks, but we also need to champion those risks, stand behind them, and then give the people who we've bet on that kind of carte blanche, honestly, to go, yeah, go with it. Follow what you were doing instead of then doing this weird thing we've seen from Disney through Marvel, through Star Wars, etc. Of then, ooh, well, let's reshoot some stuff to make it a little bit more palpable.
Yeah, the devil's advocate side to that is that Disney bought an IP that at the time was 1950s baseball, which means it was America's pastime.
Yeah.
And by the time they got to more risk being made, it was now pickleball, which pickleball is still a big thing, but it's not, it's like compared to, I mean, shit, we could even call it miniature golf at this point, because it's not.
I know.
Yeah, it's not football. It's not baseball. It ain't hockey. Like, it's just, there's no love behind it right now. There's just not. It still has the potential.
Yeah.
And so if you're Disney, You're going, hey,
No, he's right. Star Wars has completely fallen off. I shouldn't say that. I gotta be careful with how I word this because that's not true. It hasn't completely fallen off. It's fallen out of the cultural relevancy big time. I'll say that. Like it's not the thing that it once was at all, and and look, I don't think it's dead. There, a lot of people, even Christian said here, like he doesn't think it's dead either. He thinks it can be saved. And I agree with him on that. I think that right now it's a sleeping giant. It's hibernating. I think that you just have to release the right content. We saw it even as recently as, well, not even recently anymore, but in 2019 with The Mandalorian. That was a cultural mega hit for them, right? I mean, if you can get the right content out there, people really want to enjoy Star Wars. This is a forever franchise. People will always enjoy this franchise, but they're not going to blindly support, oh, it's Star Wars, I'll watch it no matter what. You have to still release good content, even if it's a franchise people love.
We don't need risk right now. We need safe because we need a win. Because the argument would be, which I've always said, look, if you go over Kathleen Kennedy's people, and I guess I'm going to answer a super chat early here. Someone said, like, what would you rank her tenure, right? It depends on what you're asking me about.
Right.
If you're asking me if I'm hiring her to make money for me in the theater, she's going to get a B+ or an A- as far as making. She's only had one loss two losses, including Indiana Jones. So maybe a B, maybe a B, maybe a B-. I don't know, maybe, because Indiana Jones was a big loss. There's no world where that movie should cost over $300 million. It's true. I don't care about COVID or not. It's ridiculous. So minus Star Wars, and then you're pushing in a B+. Because Solo, I don't really blame for her with the loss, as I mentioned earlier. Money wise, she made $1 billion. She made $2 billion on the first one. She made a lot of whatever you think. I don't like The Last Jedi. Made a lot of money. Rogue One made a lot of money. Rise of Skywalker, yes, it didn't make as much as everything else. Still made $1 billion in the time of when movies were making $1 billion. So as an executive, she probably gets on a Star Wars movies B+, maybe A-.
Right.
As a creative, I'm going C-. Because of everything I just said before. Because if you're Disney, you're going of what I just said with that money. If you really get the creative of it, then there's no world that Rise of Skywalker shouldn't have made $2 billion.
Yeah, and he's right. On the creative side of it, she scored lower. And I think a big part of that is because of what he said earlier as well. There was no vision. It was, let's throw everything at the wall and whatever sticks. As a content creator, even as small YouTubers like you and I, Conductor, right? That's not a strategy for success. Like you and I both have a vision for our channel. We know what kind of content we want to release, the style, the whole thing. It's a vision. And then we bring people in and we do stuff that sort of fits that vision. You can't just go in there and just throw anything at the wall. Like, oh, today we'll do a cooking show, and tomorrow we'll do we'll do a whole video on fixing cars. Like that's just all over the place. You have to have a vision,
Yeah.
And Star Wars creatively has not had a vision. They don't know where they're going. They bring these people in, and it's all this uncertainty, and that's where she's really fallen. And I think also I'll even add another category. He might get into it, but the management of the creation is also, I would give her a D, like a D+ on that, because between all the director firings, hiring people on, letting them go, hiring people on, letting them go, scripts being turned in, and then the project gets, falls off like, you never hear about it again. All that nonsense was horrendous. And that was really the biggest black eye for her whole tenure, was that kind of BS.
And there's no world where, Last Jedi shouldn't have yeah, Ryan, great idea. Have Luke throw the thing over his shoulders. That's going to get everybody on board. I don't give a shit if people say, oh, it was so great that they took that shot. You cannot argue that it divided and almost destroyed the fan base with one movie. That's not smart when you're trying to build out overall. I don't care what you think. Well, it's such a great, smart move. There's tons of Last Jedi fans, tons of them. But it divided the fan base. I know, sure, there's tons, Chris, tons. I get into these arguments all the time about it. But you can't argue, as being a Last Jedi fan, it divided the fan base.
Oh, for sure.
It
I,
did.
it did, but I would also argue that there was a way to handle it, and I don't think let's just undo everything and throw in an ultra. The Emperor's just randomly alive.
Sure.
Like
no,
it,
no,
the-
no.
the-
Colin Trevorrow's script was the best. It added
Right.
it added both of those. Now
And
whether he
that's-
would have directed it well, who
and-
knows?
but that I think that's what I mean about being so scared into indecision. You were so off put by what happened. Instead of making minor adjustments and staying the course or whatever, you did a full 180. And the problem with that is now you don't seem like you stand by your convictions.
Right.
And that is where people start to all of a sudden go, yo, who is running the ship? What is happening right now? Like you if you are the leader, yes, you got to take your slings and arrows, but you have to like stand up for something.
You
And
gotta have
that
a plan. You gotta have a plan.
you got
That's-
exactly.
There was no
Or-
plan.
Yeah.
I said that back in the day. There was no plan. They made money off of the Star Wars name because it was Star Wars. The first one, The Force Awakens, was going to make money no matter what. Force Awakens was going to make money. Now you had to, and Rogue One making $1 billion was them going, all right, Star Wars is moving. Star Wars, we got this. And then that's when it just started to fall. But as far as the other movies, I still don't think we're ever going to see a Taika movie, nor do I think that we should. Because she wrote in that article, she said, "Oh, I read it. It's hilarious." No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I don't think we need a hilarious Star Wars movie right now.
Thank you.
We don't. We need to get in.
Yeah, no, thank you. I agree with him on that. We don't need a hilarious Star Wars movie.
No.
I'm sorry. I don't trust them enough to stick the landing on the jokes. I'm sorry. I envision a super cheesy, lame. No, I'm good on that.
So basically, let me get this right, so that way I can clarify. Even though there's a fan base for this movie series that was kind of like, kind of like a laughing joke series of Star Wars, which was Spaceballs. This is kind of the same thing. It's like, okay, well, you're trying to now use the Star Wars name, brand, and franchise to make a movie that's supposed to be comical when Star Wars has never been comical. It's always been it's always been a movie franchise from my point of view, where you have good against evil and evil against good.
Right. And you would have sprinkled in maybe some humor. Maybe Han Solo would do something. It was funny, haha. But it wasn't like overpowering. It wasn't, you're right. They weren't comedies. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, there was a joke here, a joke there, but it wasn't, a movie that Kennedy is describing as hilarious. No, thank you. I don't need hilarious in my Star Wars.
To push back on what she said a little bit too, and I think a lot of people will push back on me for saying this. I don't think it's just about people just wanting the old when it comes to Star Wars. It's not just about that's not what people are upset about. It's the feeling and the essence of what was there, whether it was.
Well, and Christian's right on that. When Kennedy says people just want the old thing over and over again. Well, no, I mean, Mandalorian was arguably their biggest thing. Mandalorian hit the culture bigger than the sequel trilogy. Mandalorian was a bigger hit culturally than the sequel trilogy. And that was not Luke and Leia. I mean, well, Luke, I think Luke did make an appearance in it or whatever, but the original season didn't have all that stuff. The first season, I don't think it had any of that stuff in it. It was, the Mandalorian was very much its own thing initially, and people loved it. People loved it. It wasn't a rehashing of other stuff. It was cool. It was a great new Star Wars adventure. So I have to push back on Kennedy as well with that stuff, where fans just wanted the same thing over and over again. No, we didn't. I mean, Mando was great, and that felt very new and fresh to me. I don't know.
Was the feeling in the essence of the prequels, or the feeling of the essence in the original trilogy, even in Rogue One? That feeling is gone. Like even the Acolyte didn't really feel like a Star Wars show. Like the Boba Fett on the volume didn't really feel like Star Wars. It is like there's something about it. Mandalorian season 1 and season 2 did, and that combined new with a bit of the old. So you're kind of combating or contradicting yourself there, because what you did with Mandalorian season 1, season 2, And the reason the fan bases came together is because you found that formula for those 2 seasons of how to get everybody on board.
Right.
Most people, the majority of people love those 2 seasons. Even the haters, the fart in the back, everybody. Most people. So that's what you can find inside of it. You can do an Old Republic show that is new, fresh, new characters, not Star Wars related, Skywalker related, that still feels like the essence of Star Wars in the way that Knights of the Republic did. So I don't agree with the way that she put that, because there are some people that, I want to see Vader and everything. Yeah, sure. Those people, that Vader's done. I'd like to see certain stories if he's going to pop up.
Yeah, he's right. And Kennedy, I feel, was kind of making an oversimplistic sort of assumption as a way to kind of dodge like accountability a little bit. It was like, yeah, the fans just want the same thing over and over again. What can I do? And that wasn't a good look.
You're able to use them in the way and again, she's contradicting herself. They want to see some of the old. Well, you put Vader and Obi-Wan. He says some of the old. You just did it terribly. You did. Yeah. You threw in a new character in there and nothing against her. It didn't work. Character didn't work. Nobody wanted to see that.
You know what this is coming back to, Christian, and I think I'm starting to decipher specifically through what you're saying where we're running into trouble. This isn't being made from a place of creativity. This is being made from a place of just business.
Just business.
And that will always falter.
It's all business, but it can't be just business.
Right. Like the secret of show business is the show part. If you legitimately are so worried about the numbers, it doesn't mean that you don't think about the numbers. But if you are only worried about the numbers and how will we go make $1 billion, you're going to suffer, because why people are connecting is the passion that comes through.
Thank you, Winston. I love Winston, by the way. He's awesome. But this rings true for everything. It rings true for content creators. We make content because we love this stuff. We love talking about it. I don't care if this video gets 5 views or 5,000 views. I have a great time doing this with you, Conductor, and nerding out and just being a part of it, right? If we went into making our content and, I'm going to make this video because this video is going to get a lot of views. I'm going to make that video because if you're so nose deep in the analytics and the numbers, and that's all you care about, and you're only making the video because it's going to hit high numbers, the audience can see that. They can feel that a mile away. They know you're fake and phony. You're doing it just for the numbers, for whatever. If you go into it with some passion, like Winston was saying, and you actually do it because you love it, you have wow, you believe in this thing, it comes through. And the ironic thing about this whole situation is when you don't follow the numbers and you follow the passion, the numbers will come. The numbers will come if you have the passion, because that passion is going to make a better product. You know what I'm saying? When you're chasing numbers, the numbers never, you falter, because the audience is like, this is phony baloney, you know? So,
well, see, he makes a good point, Winston, because the way I associate it as well, not just content creating and what we do as YouTube channels, as a passion, as a way to escape our 9-to-5 jobs and to hang out with each other and talk nerdy stuff like this and other things. But we also see it in the theme park industry, Disney particularly. How many times have we seen where, and it was a perfect example, that New York Times article, where it clearly said over the years, how many times did Walt Disney Imagineering create something that was beyond phenomenal, or an attraction or a land, and to have kinetic energy, and then all of a sudden they create the mock-up, they create the 3D model of what it would look like,
right?
And then all of a sudden you have these bureaucrats like Bob Iger, the board, saying, nope, axe this. So by the time the final product actually shows up in the theme park, people are like, what in God's name is this?
Well, yeah, Conductor, dude, mic drop on that. 1,000% with the theme park stuff, right? Galaxy's Edge, perfect example. Galaxy's Edge is a perfect example of this. Bob Chapek, when he was running the experiences division, we were supposed to get that restaurant Star Wars experience with all the Twilight girls walking around and the stage, the whole thing. They axed that in the land so they can put it behind a $4,000 paywall for the hotel that they were doing. So and then the hotel fails. So now the restaurant's gone, the land suffers. It was BS. And that's what Christian was saying. It's like it's all about the business side of it. And when you're leading with the business end of it, and that's all that matters, everything else falters, you know. So it's crazy. Go ahead, brother.
See, this is also what pains me is, again, with the next CEO of the Walt Disney Company, and eventually Brian Roberts and Comcast. Brian Roberts will retire. He's getting older. I understand that. Whoever the next CEO is, even for Comcast, the one thing I ask is, especially for the Walt Disney Company, since we're changing CEOs as of next month, basically,
Right.
or at least the process of starting it, is that the board needs to have less decision making than they do now. And I've said this time and time again to you, to other people in our content space. I have said that the board of the Walt Disney Company, that is basically a board of investors, have too much say-so on Disney projects that go into Disney theme parks. Perfect example, again, referencing back to the New York Times article. Okay, we found out that Walt Disney Imagineering wants to touch Tomorrowland. It got denied again. And then going back to Galaxy's Edge, not just the restaurant that we didn't get because of this Galactic Star Cruiser that epically failed because of what they were charging, but then when you look at early concept art, and again, I know we always talk about never get married to concept art, but this was the one exception to that. When you looked at the concept art for Galaxy's Edge, the one thing you saw was being in a Star Wars story. And what I mean by that, it looked like you had so many different roaming characters.
Oh man, it was crazy.
Roaming around the land, interacting with guests. And now all we get is R2 once in a while. We get Mandalorian once in a while. We get Kylo Ren and his 2 stormtroopers. And now Disney's starting to realize, oh, we screwed up. So now a land that they already built that was based off the prequels is now screwed, because now you're trying to insert original trilogy characters into a land that didn't make sense, that only makes sense to prequel characters.
Sequel characters, yeah.
No, it's a sequel characters. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
So
no, you're right.
Now they're trying to, correct something they messed up, and then they're like, "Oh, please forgive us." It's like, how can we forgive you when you spent $1 billion on something fans didn't really want to begin with? They wanted a Star Wars land, but not based off that. And then on top of that, now you got it's just so jacked up. Now it's like, oh, we're trying to make right for a wrong. It's like you're already too late. You're way too late. And the thing that ticks me off more than anything is, it's funny that now we're going to have Darth Vader, we're going to have his classical stormtroopers, we're going to have Luke Skywalker, We're going to have Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, and some other characters, I'm sure. But what cracks me up is this is the beginning of the new CEO, which is probably Josh tomorrow. And I
Right.
guarantee you that Bob Iger had nothing to do with it and told tomorrow, hey, this is a test. Me and the board are going to watch. We're going to stand back, not say a word, have at it. And the first act that Josh tomorrow or whoever the next CEO is made that call, and it's a baby step in the right direction. But there is too many faults with the Walt Disney Company, whether it comes to Disneyland, Walt Disney World, or you look at the studios aspect. They have a ginormous way to go, but this is a baby step in the right direction.
It is.
This
Yeah.
is what happens when you have someone that has the experience, that has park experience, that knows what fans actually want compared to, oh, we're looking at numbers and the numbers aren't good, so we're not going to do that. So we don't care what fans think. We just care about the numbers. There's
Yeah.
a big drastic difference.
Yeah. There
And see
is.
what happens when things go the way they should compared to, oh, we're just going to focus on the numbers and the hell with everything else.
Yeah, focusing too much on the numbers and all that stuff never pans out. It never pans out. Now, I do want to say before we get out of here, a huge shout out to Christian Harloff. I will be linking his channel down below. Make sure you subscribe to Christian Harloff. Like I said, there would be no OG55 if not for this man. He does he's been doing content forever. Big Star Wars fan, big movie guy in general. So make sure you follow Harloff. Make sure you subscribe to him. Winston and Chris as well. They are both amazing as well. Info in the description down below. Now, also, we'll want to share this. We do have a friend of the channel, the one, the only, the very lovely Miss Mimi Fan. Now, Mimi does our outro here at OG55. The wonderful outro that we have for every video is Mimi Fan. She does a lot of lifestyle and like food content. She goes to all these places, whether it be like Vietnamese restaurants or Korean barbecue, Middle Eastern places, Armenian place, whatever it is. She goes all throughout LA and Orange County, and she checks these places out, which they look amazing. This place in particular is on Brookhurst in Westminster, California, Orange County. But anyway, follow her on YouTube, link down below, but also on Instagram. So check her out. All that information is down below. Conductor, thank you so much for joining today. Where can everybody find you, sir, on social media?
Absolutely. And I want to give a big shout out to Orange Grove 55 for always being an amazing host. Absolutely love you, brother. And you can find me on YouTube and Blue Sky at Theme Park Conductor, on Instagram at theme_park_conductor. You can find me on X at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. for Conductor Sunday live stream as we talk Disney, Universal, we talk some studio stuff, we talk about the latest breaking news from the theme parks and the studios with amazing guests like the one and only Orange Grove 55 and so many other amazing guests. As we break down this news, we talk, speculate, we talk rumors, we interact with the chat interacts with us. It's such a great time. And this coming Monday, the 26th, I will have Orange Grove 55 and Sam Chat as we break down the latest news, not just from Lucasfilm, but also what's going on in the theme parks. Can't wait to catch you guys all there at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Conductor. Thank you all so much for watching. Also, big shout out to the Park God, new content creator I recently found. I found him on YouTube and on Instagram. He's amazing. We reacted to his great video early on. He's awesome. Support him. Info in the description. Obviously, the lovely Mimi Fan. Support her. Info in the description. And also, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Christian Harloff, also in the description. And until next time, see you all.
Thank you so much for watching OG55. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and become a member today.